Yay! Ooh, gross ads. Hi everyone. I'm gonna turn down my music just a little bit. Hi guys, welcome to another beautiful Tuesday evening. I hope you guys had a really great week since the last time I saw you. Today we are going to do Princess Jasmine from Aladdin, and I'm super excited about it. I have done Princess Jasmine once before, and it ended up being a really successful painting. It was part of a whole series of Disney princess paintings that I had done. And I just think as a character, Jasmine is really interesting. She's got a lot of really interesting design choices behind her. And overall, I just think it's going to be a really fun concept that I'm going to be doing for you guys. So I guess let's get started. Cool. So what you're looking at is a painting that I had done. You gotta get down. What you're looking at is, sorry, my cat is crazy. What you guys are looking at is a painting that I had done 2 weeks ago, which was of Princess Tiana, which was really popular, I think, for several reasons. One is that you guys really get to see how I intend to have this be finished and polished. And I think that Princess Tiana is kind of an unsung princess in the Disney princess sort of lineup. I think that's another reason why I really wanted to do Jasmine, because she's just not featured as much, and with the new Aladdin movie that's coming out, I think it'd be really fun to do. So we're going to start off with a blank canvas. And I've been doing 2000 by 2000 in Procreate. A little bit about the materials that I'm using. I am using an iPad, I use Procreate, I am using an Apple Pencil, and that is it. So another thing I really want to point out to you guys is what I'm using for references. So I use pretty exclusively animation screen caps. This is coming from the time that I was working on Disney enamel pins. Animation screen caps is really awesome. They have a whole bunch of Disney movies in there. They have a couple of non-Disney films as well. So you can see they have a whole bunch of different types of Aladdins. The one that we are referencing today is the 1992 Aladdin. And from there I pulled a whole bunch of different things because I knew that I wanted it to be a very specific style of illustration, and that is inspired by Alphonse Mucha, who is a Art Nouveau painter from the turn of the century, and we are working with sort of a lot of these floral elements, and I really love the pose of what Mucha did here. I just think it'd be really beautiful and handsome to do and execute, so that's what we're going to be doing today. So I guess let's get started. So first things first is we really just want to get acquainted with what Jasmine's proportions are. And the way that I usually handle that is I will just experiment and start trying to get a feel for her proportions. I think Aladdin is a really interesting animated film to look at because you have a whole lot of design work here that's telling you a lot about who these characters are, and whether you're looking at their silhouettes or not, you can tell who they are. So I'm just doing a loosey-goosey sort of illustration of her. And again, I'm just taking a look at what her proportions are. She's definitely rocking the like midriff top that was really popular in the 90s. And it looks like the tie of her hair falls at about her back, around where like the bra line would be, and the tail of that ponytail is going to fall just below her butt. I'm actually going to click into Aladdin because I realize, although I have a lot of really great references of Jasmine, actually it's not going to matter because I'm doing this pose. We're not going to see the front of her anyways, but I'm going to have it here just in case I need it. Let me go back to that reference that I was looking at. So when you're doing a study of a character, this is going to be the case for any animation studio that you're at. It's going to be the case when you're working on any sort of down, stinky down. Thank you. Sorry, my animals do not leave me alone when I'm streaming. When you're working on any project, especially like a video game or an animated film or an animated series, you really have to have an understanding of your characters and their proportions and whatnot. So I'm looking at Princess Jasmine, and I'm just taking in sort of how all of her shapes relate to one another. So to me, I'm just kind of thinking, okay, the little balloon pants that she wears, these are about 1.5 of her sort of hair volume. And her head is about half. Actually, I would say 1/3 of that volume. No, a little bit more than, hold on. A little bit more than 1/3, I would say. Other things that I'm looking at is the relationship between her upper body, her torso, and how big her hips are. So she's got that sort of Coke bottle situation going on with her silhouette. And this volume is roughly the same as this volume. Let's see what else. If this hand came down, Stinky, can you please do that somewhere else? Oh, little tail wags. Do you want up-ups? Okay. Can you get up here? Can you get up? Up. I believe in you. Oh, Jesus. Oh, Stinky. I can't move. I can't move, baby. I'm sorry. Come on. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it. Come on. You give up? Okay. The other thing that I'm looking at here is if she had brought this hand down, where's her hand going to land on her body as well? Yay! Hi, Amanda. Thank you for watching. So, you're always thinking about how your character's body relates to the rest of the scene, to the different accessories that they're wearing, the clothes that they're wearing, and that's going to really help inform some of the decision making that you make later on. Cool. So we have that all kind of settled out, and I know I really want to use this layout of Muka. So Procreate has this really great option, and it's a drawing guide, and I'm going to get into more detail for some of the lattice work that we're going to have later. But you get to choose how big your grid is and whatnot, and then also you can choose to have drawing assist, which allows you to do straight up and down lines, which is super helpful, super huge. So we know that realistically we're probably only going to use the center third of the composition, and that's roughly about where the pelvis is going to sit. And that's roughly the proportions of the composition. And we know that this character, we can see from the folds of this dress, you guys can see sort of, you see where it slopes down? That's telling you that it's draping off of the pubic bones down into where we're going to have a void. And then you can see a little bit here that there's this line that's coming down and dipping in. And you can see right here, that's the front knee. And then this straight line behind it to the left of it is a straight line up and down. So we know that this back leg is going to be basically locked out behind that front leg. So I'm just thinking roughly what Jasmine's proportions are going to be. In relationship to this illustration, because I know we're going to have to go back in and adjust it quite a bit. I know I want her hair to kind of, since we have in our reference this shape going, I would like her hair to follow that as well. Something. That looks really ugly, so we're not going to do that. So I know in our reference we have her like that. The thing is with Jasmine's shoes, Jasmine has like these sorts of shoes, right? And it really looks good when you see it from the side. So I think what we're going to have to do here is we're going to cheat this leg a little bit more over so that we'd be able to see that shoe. And then I know we're going to have a whole bunch of flowers here. And then we're going to have 2 flowers here as well. Okay, something like that. That's what I look like when I gotta pee. This is what I look like all the time because I always have to pee. So I totally feel you on that, Vanda. Okay, cool. So now we're gonna pull up that study we did earlier. And this is where that study can come in handy later, because then you can compare them side by side and see where you goofed up. So if this is roughly the volume of Jasmine's chest, if we decide to keep that, let's take a look at our reference again. 4th tab, there we go. And we know that her shoulders are a little bit wider than her hips. And then here's those giant balloons that she has. So I'm thinking for both legs, for those pants, for the shoes to show, we might have to turn both feet over to the side. And to be frank, this looks really hideous. So we're going to adjust it a little bit. Because the thing is that Jasmine's pants, the way harem pants work is if she's standing, the pants are going to drape straight down, which is going to give you this really beautiful balloon curve. But if Jasmine bends her knee, underneath that, the draping point is then coming from the knee and not the hips. So when we're moving around her lower legs, it's going to be the same thing. It's going to be draping from the back of the leg rather than the knee or the front of the leg. Let's see. Roughly speaking, people's lower arms and upper arms tend to be the same length. She's got that really pretty necklace. So when we're looking at Jasmine's head in relationship to her hair, the top of her head is what's carrying that gem. And then the hair is kind of draping out of where that headband is coming. And it looks like the points of her hair relate to where her eyelashes are. Kind of hard to describe. There's like an echo, there's a pattern of where Jasmine's hair kind of comes out and then goes back in. Cool, so we have this sort of basic sketch down. Let me get rid of all of this. Actually, I lied, because I want to recenter this, and I want that. Okay, we're going to take this down a lot. We're going to bring this down almost to invisible, and we're going to get rid of the drawing guide, because it's really distracting me right now. And we're going to start to go in. And we're going to start to put in details. We're going to start to figure out a little bit more information of the anatomy. And I really like how her face looks here. So if I decide to use that, you'll notice Jasmine's eyes are a lot more angled than some of the other Disney princesses. And then we're thinking about that center line of the top of her head here. So then that gemstone on the top of our head. Do you do character drawings like this? When you do character drawings like this, can you use it for portfolio, or is that a copyright thing? Ah, the portfolio question. It's really complicated. The answer is yes, absolutely you can use it in your portfolio. I am in a bit of a struggle with two of the companies I've worked with because they will not release artwork that I did for them because technically, since we are doing a service or such as advertising or a product for Disney, for example, that company that employed me doesn't have the rights to the artwork. Therefore, they technically can't release it to me for me to use it in my portfolio. And that, I think that, to be fair, like that is pretty tricky because they're working with Disney consumer products. They're working on feature films, and some of those films haven't been released. Some of those products haven't been released to the public. So I can understand why they're very stubborn and inflexible about sharing that content, even after a film's come out and even after a product's come out. And I think it's just because, you know, understandably so, they don't want to risk that company getting into trouble because one of their artists put something in their portfolio. So if you're doing something on your own time in your own house and you put in your portfolio, you're not going to have any problems. You may run into problems if you work at a studio and you bring the artwork home and then you put in your portfolio because they tend to be very unhelpful in helping artists get jobs, even if they lay them off or the artist decides to move on to a different place. So it sucks. I think it breeds shadiness, which I don't like. I don't like being put into a position where I have to be shady to get access to artwork that I could put into my portfolio so that I can pay my student loans. So, so yeah, if you ever work somewhere, I think that's one of the first things you should definitely ask is what are the guidelines? What's the procedure for me to put stuff into my portfolio? And 9 times out of 10, they'll probably tell you you can't. And then I don't know how people get work. I don't know whether people basically steal the files that they need in order to pad their portfolio. I'm probably not the most helpful person in that situation. Nor do I want to give like legal advice to any artists that are like watching this, because I don't know, and it's totally shady. And yeah, change the subject. So we're working out Jasmine's proportions and her outfit. So one way to make your drawing look interesting is to turn the torso, a head, the hips, the legs, and start moving the body around. It makes it look more dynamic. Even if it's something as simple as how the hands are. So her hands right now are like that, holding the flowers. And that within itself is just going to be more visually interesting than just having both hands forward like that. So right now I'm just drawing her her legs without the hair and pants, because it could be really distracting, I think. And I didn't warm up before doing this drawing, so I'm totally paying for that right now. There we go. Okay, and then we're gonna go back in maybe with a different color on a different layer and draw out the hair and pants, just in case we need them. And actually, the way her proportions are, she's actually gonna be more like that. But it's a little bit tougher because we don't really see any of that information. But I'm guessing it's actually more like that. So this is like the non-glamorous, boring part of drawing, is figuring out what your character's proportions are. Actually, this goes up here, here, and this is there. Being hypercritical of where you place your line work is going to save you a huge headache down the line, because then actually Being critical of it before you start really committing to everything early on is going to give you the freedom and like the self-love to be like, it's okay, like we don't have to be committed to what you put down and we can kill our baby. So don't hyper obsess if something is like not working or it's looking weird. You can go back and you can change it, you can erase it, and allow yourself to do that early on, because it's a lot harder to make those decisions when you go farther down the line. Okay, I feel much better about that. So now we're gonna do the hair and pants in that sort of blue. And again, the pants want to flow out from her hips. They're gonna catch in the back of her leg here, and they're gonna drape down. So gravity's just gonna keep pulling that. If only I could do that with life's mistakes. Just kidding, my life is perfect with mistakes. I totally agree. I think some of the best things I personally have ever done has happened because I was making a mistake, or I learned something really profound from it. So yes, don't be afraid of your mistakes. So we've done that. This is all good and great, but then you start running into problems of, okay, well, does that look good? And to be frank, no, it doesn't. So we're gonna cheat it a little bit on that back leg. A little bit on the front leg. So again, as you can see, you just keep iterating over and over again. And as you iterate, you're also putting in more and more information. You're making it clearer. And you really have to take your time and give yourself the ability to like look at what you're drawing. Have an earring sticking out. But and I find that for a lot of Disney characters, they tend to bring this outer line of the head up to, and it like kisses the eyeball when you get into the third quarter view. It like kisses the eyeball and it comes back up. Her nose comes in a little bit more. It's that really beautiful like S curve in there. So what I'm looking at is I'm looking at how tall her eye is. And then that height down is where the lip starts. And then from the bottom of the nose to her chin is another eye. So it's 3 eye heights down. 1 eye high up is already into the hairline. And it's about 1 eye width apart. I think this nose comes over just a little bit more. And her eyebrows come up there. Again, we're thinking about where the center of her head is going to correspond with where her hair part is going to be as well. Erase that. Soften that a little bit. Okay, so let's go back to this reference. So at this point, I'm also just taking into consideration, I'm also taking into consideration sort of, not only is it on model, am I following what this character actually looks like, but is what I'm drawing also visually appealing? I think I want this to cut in just a little bit more. Okay, and then so I'm basically creating like this circular volume around her boobs so that I could understand exactly what her boobs look like and what the volume and the shape of that boob is. Because I can always go back in and add more information. And then I'm actually going to bring her arm in just a little bit more. And I think I'm making this one a little too thick. So if we're thinking about this center line, her head is turned, her chest is centered and squared with us, but then her hips are going to be shifting. So this form starts to twist. So her belly button should have a similar line. I don't know, like a gesture basically to indicate that her hips are twisting. And then that is going to be echoed in sort of that dip in her waistband. That. So I don't know if we can, yeah, we can see the ankle part. And then just thinking about this curve coming down, wherever you can introduce S-curves into your drawing, it's going to make it look a lot more appealing. So you can see there's this S-curve here until it hits her knee. There's an S-curve here. There's an S-curve here. There's S-curves in her face. Her nose is an S-curve. So again, as much as you can introduce that into your drawings, it's really going to help your drawing. It's going to make it look a lot better. Again, that S curve in her foot. Maybe not that severe. We do it like that. S curve there, S curve here. Like so. Thing is I'm making it too big. Like if you look at Princess Jasmine's feet, like they're tiny. And then here. And now we're just looking to see, like, is this volume the same here? The answer is no. So that's the heel bone, that center of the foot, here's the toes, and then it's going to curve from there. So having a really good understanding of anatomy is always, are you measuring it or just eyeballing? I'm eyeballing it. So when you take anatomy classes, you see artists doing this, and they do it to their paper, and they do it to the model, and they do it to their paper. The reason why you're doing that is because you're measuring on your pencil. You have to put your arm straight out, because if you do it like with your arm bent, every time you look, your arm could be bent at a different angle, and it's going to give you a different proportion. So you always want to have your arm completely straight out, and you're looking, and you're looking at where the top of something is and the bottom of something is, and you're measuring that with your pen, and then you're bringing it over to your drawing and looking at it to see if it relates to one another. The only way I could describe it is, you know, you like pinch somebody's head. You're like, I'm squishing your head, I'm squishing your head. But if you put your hand here, it's like, I'm squishing your head, I'm squishing your head. But if you put your hand here, it's like, I'm squishing your head, I'm squishing your head. That distance is going to vary depending on how far away your hand is. And depending on how far away from the subject you are, right? So making sure that your reference isn't moving, or your model, making sure that you're not moving, all of those variables, assuming that all of that is the same, well, then you could measure it, so to speak. Similar to, like, you can't really compare inches to feet unless you understand that there's 12 inches in a foot. So yes, the timeless head squish method. Yeah, so it's very technical. So I am eyeballing it. This is something I do every day. I've been doing it for a decade in my professional career. So it comes to me very naturally and very easily. But yeah, when you're starting off, you might need to use the pencil, the eye squish, the head squish method to kind of be able to measure and look at proportions. Another way that I could describe it is, I don't know if you guys remember being in math class, and it's like, how can you say that two objects are proportional to one another? And so you have that. So you know that because the angles are the same and the relationship, because the angles are the same, you know that it's going to be proportional to one another. It's kind of the same thing when you're measuring. For anyone that is curious or cares about sort of the math, physics portion of that. Right, so we've done all that. I'm gonna do the arms on a separate layer. And the reason for that is because the arms are going to be overlapping her form. And I'm pretty happy about how I did her body so far. I actually see like two things that I want to change. But because I'm going to be doing the arms and her arms are overlapping her body, I just want to have it on different layer in case I hate it. I don't have to get rid of everything. So I'm thinking, this is her elbow. It's going to come straight up. That's that elbow. It's going to come straight up. And then So what I'm thinking about is what on her body, how her muscles are moving, and also like looking at my reference and being like, is that actually how her arm looks? And it's not. It looks a bit more like this. And then her fingers are actually pretty tiny. She's kind of got like, all the Disney princesses have like Barbie proportions to their hands, it feels like sometimes. Wait. So another thing is that as you start to bend your fingers, your pinky, your ring finger, your middle finger, and your pointer finger go down. And then when you're straightening your fingers again, it's the reverse. So if you have any sort of bend to your fingers, these fingers tend to be at a more bent angle, if not completely closed compared to these. Um, don't ask me why, I don't know. And how your character articulates their fingers is going to tell a lot about their character. Usually delicate girl fingers are going to have like two fingers smushed together. They're going to have that really soft curvature to the little fingers. Hands are really hard. So if you suck at drawing hands, it's because they're hard. There's nothing else to say about that. Okay, so we're gonna hide all of our references and everything, and we're just gonna examine what we've drawn so far. And she totally looks weird, right? Because like she's just like, but it'll make sense later. And then I'm gonna go in again with red and correct what I'm seeing here. So although I really like that shape, pretty much that S curve, I feel like this should come here. And then we have a curve there. I think that's just gonna look better. And this is now getting into the sort of the nitty gritty of your design. Thinking. And then I don't think I have any more references that I've pulled up for her for now. I don't like that either, and it's driving me crazy. So what if we did the bend that? Because instinctually, here's what's going through my head. I'm thinking hip, knee, foot. So I think we might just have to follow that. And maybe even bend this foot even more. Like that. So anyone that tells you that they do it on the first pass, that's probably because they've been practicing it that way. And that's just, that's that. Or it's somebody that's been drawing this character for so long and they really just have an understanding of what the character looks like. I certainly don't draw Princess Jasmine very often, so that's why I'm really, see, this is why you work on different layers! We're okay. We're safe. We're safe. We're in a safe space. Oh my god, that was really scary. This is why I always work in different layers, because like sometimes I'll lose track of which layer I'm working on, and then I go to erase and I'm like, oh my god, I just spent 10 layers, spent 10 minutes on this one layer, and I thought I was on a completely different layer, and then I'm totally screwed. Trying to think. Got that. Yeah, so then this foot will come here. And I think that's gonna look better than how I have it right now. Cool. So we're gonna put all that together and then we're gonna start inking it. And I think this is like one of the more enjoyable parts of this whole process because it really starts to take shape. Ah, there it is. Okay, actually, it's a round shape there. So the way that this particular brush works, my script brush, is it goes from thick to thin. So I have to keep remembering that it's going to do that. So when I'm choosing which direction I want to ink this, I'm thinking it's going thick to thin, or thin to thick, thin to thick. So I'm just trying to be mindful of that. So typically delicate features, especially on a woman, you don't want to have a really thick line there. Unless it's like eyeliner or something like that. So that and that. Actually, we'll keep it solid for now. And we will put that highlight in when we are at that portion of the coloring. That. Stretch out my neck. And I want her eyebrows to be at like the same height. Okay. That. Out, 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 out. So you always got to remember when you're illustrating something, even if it's something that you feel like you really know what you're looking at, take into consideration that you may not have seen it in this particular perspective. So when we think of Jasmine's brooch, in our minds we have this idea of like, okay, that's her headband, or her, not her brooch, Jasmine's headband. But in actuality, Jasmine's headband lives on her head. And so as she turns, it's going to give you a different perspective of what that form is, and it may not always be this perfect oval. It may be more of an oblong. It might even be like a straight line, depending on how you're observing that shape. Cool, and then we're gonna do her neck. And typically you want to do the neck coming straight from where the pupils are or where the eyes are. I find that it helps to ground where the neck is rather than just like this random like pole that goes into somebody's head. Like think about the fact that it's not directly in the center of your head as you know it as far as front to back goes. It's actually sitting farther back behind your jaw. So I know I'm going to have flowers in the front of this composition, so I'm going to skip that part of the inking and move on to her chest. And she's got kind of a geometric design to her top. And I actually feel like I made it a little too wide. All right, it comes down and over. And I'm doing this sort of S-curve here to start to indicate that this form is starting to curve. So we could even have this part of her boob start to overlap more. And actually this part. Yeah. Oh my god, am I going crazy? No, yeah. Okay. So again, thinking about that line, I do want it to get thicker as it goes to the bottom. It's a little too thick. It's a little too thick. It's also touch sensitive, so the more pressure I put on it, and I'm like leaning on it as I go forward. So I think that's what's causing that. Okay. Shout out to Amanda for hosting me right now, by the way, and also to all of the new followers that I've had. I'm trying to get to affiliate so that I can give you guys like custom emotes, and for me to have that, I need to have 50 followers. So, yeah, that's kind of my only follower goal, just so that I can have like custom emotes in chat for everybody. Nope. Okay. Let me see more of the front of the foot. And then this would actually come with that. That feels right to me. Amanda's spamming her emotes. I'm so jealous. I knew that these shoes were going to give me a problem, and I'm totally paying for it. I go on moon mode. Oh, I thought I am in moon mode. Shouldn't be getting notifications pushed to my iPad. Ew. So I'm looking at this and realizing this little like cinching part of the bottom of her pants is hitting her ankle here, but here it's hitting above the ankle. So we've got to fix that. Also, look at how big I made her foot. It's not a cute look at all. So I'm actually pretty happy with how I had done the solution here for this foot. So what I think I'm gonna do is this. So this is like the nice thing about working in any sort of digital medium is you could start moving stuff around. And you can't really do that on traditional medium. Amanda's explaining why she screams in her Twitch stream all the time. So this is a side view. And then we're going to pull this up. That. Okay, brilliant. And then sort of her armpits, shoulders, just going to indicate them, her necklace. So notice that this top line is pretty thin, but this bottom line is thicker, especially gets to the center, and that helps to give you the illusion of the form of her necklace and how it's sitting on her neck. And I really want this hair to actually come out farther. That. And this one's going to come down a little bit lower. And then I think we're just going to Google it really quick. Princess Jasmine hair. The Tamagotchi's so mad at me. Okay, so she's got 3 bunches in her hair. It's kind of hard to tell. Oh god, I don't want a YouTube video. So I've mentioned in previous videos, it's really time consuming to do research. Yeah, so she's got 2 bits kind of. It's really time consuming to do research, and it can be frustrating because it takes you out of your element. but it does make for a better drawing in the long run. And I try to like load up like all of my references beforehand so that I'm not like running around scrambling. So if you do that for yourself, it'll certainly help you as well. And then I think something like that. Oh, Amanda's asking me something. Are you gonna see La Llorona? Speaking of my screaming, no. I have like this weird relationship with like scary movies. I feel like I won't bother to go see something unless it's potentially like an Academy Award-winning film, or if it's done by a director I really like. And La Llorona doesn't really say either of those things to me. So it might come down to like other people seeing it and then me being like, okay, maybe I'll go see it. But no, I don't have any plans to go see it at all. Which is weird because I love Halloween, I love creepy, spooky stuff, but I'm just I'm not as into like horror films as like a lot of people are. I prefer documentaries on like really terrifying things like serial killers. Sometimes I wonder if the reason why I like spooky, creepy things is because a lot of what I draw is like so like wholesome, that it just balances out sort of my palette, you know? All right, so we're gonna draw in her little like ponytail holder. Yes, you could call it that. That. Oh, Amanda says the only horror films I skip are the demonic possession ones because it's like, yeah, okay, we know what happens. Yeah, we've all seen the guacamole puke from Exorcist, I think. I was really into American Horror Story, but I think by like season 5 or 6, I think it was the Lady Gaga season that I kind of just was like, I don't really care anymore. My favorite one was Asylum. So good. And I think it was the most terrifying out of all of them because, you know, I have depression and mental health stuff. Like, people people have this misconception of like what having mental health challenges, like they think that like that means that you're crazy, and it's like actually it wasn't. Oh, Coven. Yeah, Coven was really good too. I think Coven got a little crazy towards the end, but in a good way, like in a tolerable way. I don't know. I don't know. I didn't feel as like shook by Coven as I was by Asylum because again, like I think it has to do with my mom. My mom definitely needed more mental help and she didn't. And when it was basically forced upon her, she freaked out and didn't handle it well. So I had a really bad misconception of like what going to the doctor for that sort of thing would be until I got older and I realized like I'm profoundly unhappy and I'm stressed out and like I went to the doctor and the doctor's like, yeah, you have anxiety. Let's get you to a specialist. And I was like, cool. And it's the best thing that's ever happened to me. So that is, I guess, one thing that I have to say about movies and films that do like horror films based in asylums and mental institutions and people being crazy is that it gives people this like false understanding of what it means to like have mental health and like go to a psychologist or a psychiatrist or whatever, and I think it's a shame and people really miss out as a result of it. So that's it. Soapbox is over. Let's draw some of these Jasmines and we're gonna do them. I don't think I need that reference. That's fine because this is my line work, which I'm actually gonna rename line. And then we're gonna sketch out the flowers. We'll do it in like a purple color. Wait, where was I gonna put our hands in this though? All right, and then also we're thinking about like the spatial relationships. So we know the flower is about that big on our head, right? Yeah, it's about half her head. So when we're drawing it out, we want to be sure that we're honoring that. And they're 5-pointed flowers. But and then I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna do like a bunch of them here. 1, 2, 3. 1. As a Jasmine artist, can you call Jasmine and ask her where the F I can get a flower that's half my head? Yes. Honestly, I was at Hobby Lobby today because I was like running errands and stuff. And Hobby Lobby has flowers that are like this big. So if you're looking for a ginormous flower, Hobby Lobby is going to be your jam. And we want sort of this like half moon and like almond shape in here as well. Not just like this flat on situation that we have going. Because flowers are gonna not all grow like directly like pointing in like one direction. They're gonna kind of sit in different directions. Where's Carpet's hand? Yeah, see, so you can see here that not all of them have that perfect circle shape. I actually really like how this composition looks. Maybe we'll make this a pot that they're growing out of. Just echo that up. So in our reference, the Muka reference, we have some of the flowers poking out around her. Like that. Cool. So we've done that, and then we're gonna go back to our line work and start building that out. Oh, has to be real because I'm gonna be an Arabian princess instantly. I don't know if we could find you a real flower. Oh, hibiscus flowers are like that big, right? They're like that big. So I'm sure we could hook you up, Manda. I'm sure we could hook you up with a good flower. I got really lucky. I went to H&M and I found this like most righteous, like fantastic, like head flower. And I don't know how I got so lucky, but I did. And people since then like ask me where I got it, and I'm like H&M of all places. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm going through and I'm just drawing sort of that center circle, the pollen part. What is it called? You know what I'm talking about. The yellowy part of the flower. That's what I'm drawing out right now. And that's going to help me remember sort of what direction everything's facing in. I really want to do a sunflower. What does it look like? I'm afraid of what Amanda's gonna say. It looks like. Tell me, what does it look like? Also, Amanda, you used an emoji. Oh, yes. Lady bits. Kind of does. Yellow lady bits. Amanda, you used a emoji in chat that I see it and I see people use it, but I don't know what it means. Could you please educate me? Because I have no idea. I'm like so new to like Twitch, and I try really hard to like be in other people's like channels and stuff, and like I feel like an idiot because I don't know what people are saying. Okay, so the way that these flowers are built, and this is why I did it on a different layer, because I want to be able to draw out the petals and have them separate from like the pollen part of the flower. And then I'm going to go in and erase everything and then merge everything together. Oh, the couple emoji is just kind of like either sarcasm or an eyebrow raise, like Mr. Bean. Oh, interesting. Good to know. I shall use the kappa. Why kappa? Is that like a person? Again, I'm really sorry for my ignorance. The way that the flower is designed, each petal has this center line through it, which is great because that's going to help you figure out sort of the shape of the flower. And then once we build out enough of these, we're actually going to duplicate it because I'm not trying to sit here all day, all night rather, to draw this out. And part of the reason why we did this, that purple shape is so that we could understand what the volume looks like. Oh, Amanda replied. I think it was a person. There's been weird backstory for most of these emotes. I looked it up once but can't remember. Yeah, Twitch is great like that because I think like the community's been around for so long that you could just like spend an entire day trying to figure out what certain things are, and then like once you know, it's like you know a secret language almost. Here, like that, and like that. And I find I did it the backwards way on that first flower and I really paid for it. I find it much easier if you just do front, the farthest most forward, what am I trying to say? The furthest most forward form, you draw that out before you draw the back one and the one behind that, the one behind that. You're going to find yourself erasing a little bit less because of that. And it's just going to, it'll go faster that way. Am I using the wrong, no, I'm using the right thing. Okay. And actually, yeah, okay. That. Almost did it again. Okay. And for anyone that's like out there trying to like become a better artist or like become an artist or whatever, the only way you're gonna get better, honestly, is if you just draw every single day. You draw everything that you see, and you don't like back away from something that's hard. Oh, man, ask a question. Oh, did you ever figure out how you broke your pen and how to fix it? Yes, I figured out the brush that I was using in a previous episode was the water pen, and I had done something weird to the stroke, to like pressure taper and stroke, and it just completely destroyed my entire pen. I fixed it. I don't know how I fixed it, but basically I had just like goofed up all of my settings. So sometimes it helps to like, if you have like a very specific brush that you really like, sometimes it helps to just make duplicates of it because you might goof it up like I did by accident. But yeah, I was really relieved. I broke it and I just was like, oh, I can't figure this out. And thankfully I saw that I had that like that other pen, that other brush preset, and it was so close to it that I was like, I'm just gonna use that because I'm gonna cry. Okay, I feel like I'm making these like little inner lines a little too long. Oops. That. 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 And here. I'm trying to get a bit of a headache. I'm gonna drink more water. Can you export them and then import when you break it and need to restore it? That's a really good question. Share. Yes. Copy to Creative Cloud. Oh, the answer is yes. Not now. Later. Well, I don't want to deal with that now. So the answer is yes. I can totally do that. I was like, no, don't open another file. Don't open another thing. Yeah, you could totally do that. Amanda and I went to college together for everybody that's watching, and so we've both kind of went through the frustrations of like digital artwork, and it's like save often and save like obsessively because of stuff like that happening. It's like you are inevitably, you're gonna do something and it's gonna be bad and you don't even know what you did, but you know that it's a bad thing and you don't know how to fix it and you just start crying. And then it's actually happened to me. I didn't back up my hard drive was my backup to my other hard drive, and the backup hard drive crashed. I had a boyfriend using it. He ruined it, and I flunked out of my demo. It's like your graduating classes. It's like your thesis class. I had to flunk out of it because I lost everything. It was really bad. The way through art school is taking a shot every time you hit save, and vice versa. Yeah, pretty much the way to survive art school is to not go, or you just can take a lot of abuse from your files, from your teachers, from your computer. But yeah, I'm really happy that you pointed that out. Like, I really should back up all of my brushes because I know, watch, something bad's gonna happen. I'm not gonna let now, because bad things happen, you can't control them. So it's better to just like double, triple save everything, or else you're gonna cry. Okay, I don't know if you guys are looking at the reference at all, but there's this bottom right flower, and it's just like a little ray of sunshine beaming down upon me. So I'm actually just gonna build out that form really quickly because I like these little petals that kind of stick up like that. Boop, boop, boop. I think that's incredibly handsome, so I'm gonna mimic that here. So again, you'll notice even something as simple as a flower, like I'm taking the time to build out its form before I ink it. Especially if it's something that's kind of complex, like this is not the most easiest flower to draw. So give yourself the time to just do that, and you will be far less traumatized as a result of it. Okay. So I feel like I've drawn enough of these guys that I could start duplicating them. So first what I'm going to do, oh god, cancel. What is happening? That, here, that. Okay. Alpha lock, fill. So we're going to duplicate that. We're going to remove these flowers from this layer, clear it, and then bring down the transparency on this top one. And then we're going to get rid of the circles on this one. It's going to make sense in a second, I promise. I basically just separated all of those different things onto different layers and screwed up the flower petal. Cool. So now that I've done that, I could start duplicating the flowers that I've already drawn and save myself a lot of time by just moving all this nonsense about. See that? Like, I can't stress this enough. When you're working professionally, you do not have time. Like, you have to do twice as much work than was spec'd out, like super, super fast, and it still has to be super good. And like literally all you can do is just cheat. Like, it's cheating, but you know what? Like, it's getting done, and like nobody honestly notices if you do it correctly. I've seen a lot of junior artists, looking at you graphic designers, that tend to reuse assets, and they don't hide the fact that they're reusing it, and it looks like garbage. So you have to be very, very, very careful when you do this sort of stuff, that you are not that you're not being lazy about how lazy you are. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, if you're gonna cheat, be smart about how you cheat. Like, hide the paper trail, like, get rid of the receipts. Like, you really, really be careful about where you're cheating and how you're cheating it, and understand why you're doing it. If you're tracing something, then there better be a good freaking reason for it. Don't just do it because, like, you're lazy. Do it because it's like, oh, no one's gonna notice. This is actually gonna be like a minor background thing, and I'm just gonna bust it out. Well, then that's fine and it's understandable. But if you're like stealing an entire composition from somebody, well, then that's not cool, and like you shouldn't be doing that, you know. So be smart about it. Be respectful. Be respectful of your client. Be respectful of your boss. Be respectful of like your references that you're using. Like, again, just be smart about it. The one thing I would say about this trick in Procreate, and it's not that hard of a difference, like it's not that big of a deal, but this line that I actually drew is much crisper than the flowers that I moved around. It's super subtle. I don't know if you guys can see the difference, but I could see it. So just something to think about as you transform and deform things. Photoshop doesn't have this problem quite as much, but Procreate does. So just putting that out there for people to be mindful of it if they decide to employ this trick in Procreate. Kind of want that to be a climbing thing. And then we'll hide these back here. And then I kind of hate that this one right here is just like upside down. I think it's on this layer. This layer? It's this layer. That's not how flowers grow. So I'm just gonna adjust it. Oh God. And then we have a couple back here that we're gonna take. Ah! Another thing you want to think about is like, don't tell the flowers you're stepping on them for other flowers. You're stepping out on them for other flowers? Sorry, hun, I was visiting my sister out of town. Yes, accurate. Amanda, you're the best. Oh my God. Okay. So at this point, we're just going to merge all of the flowers, and I'm going to start just picking them individually, the ones that I want to steal. I really like this one here. I'm going to duplicate it. Put it here. And I find that if you are duplicating one a whole bunch, use it in the background so it's not quite as noticeable, or be sure that it's not one that's like super obvious. And then again, same thing here. I don't want these flowers to be upside down. It's not how they grow. What is going on? I think that looks much better. And then this one right here, we're gonna rotate that way. Oh, but see how this one's right next to that one, so we can't put it there. We'll do it here. Maybe here. Actually, that works. We'll have that one there. And then we need one more round one for that corner spot. So we're going to duplicate these. And then this guy. Will be this one that's in the front of our hand. Actually, that one we should flip. Okay, grab that. And then let's flip it. It's because these two are right next to each other, so I don't want it to be super obvious that I duplicated it. Trying to figure out how big I want it to be and where I want it overlapping on her body. And then I think this one is going to be the one that I'm going to duplicate for the other hand. This one right here. Yeah, because I don't think those are the same. So again, this trick only works if you are really, really smart about how you're doing it. And it helps if you deform it just a little bit. And then let's take a look at my reference. Okay, so we might even have to add some more flowers so that it's a little less hokey, because right now it looks a bit cheap and weird, like it's not framing correctly. So why don't we Google Middle Eastern flower? This would be lovely. I think this is a poppy. Just let me see the image, please. Copy image address. The butts. Ugh. Yeah, I'm okay with that. So let's do this in like this dark green so that I know it's a different thing. And it looks a bit... So this one I'm not super concerned with it being accurate because it's a stylized version of what we see. The other one I was really, I think these are poppies, so they're 4-petaled flowers. Yes. Amanda's into the poppy, good. Yeah, I was really particular about how I was drawing these because they're accurate to how they look in film, right? But for the poppy, like it's just a take on a poppy, so it doesn't have to be super, super accurate. And then there's sorts of like, it almost looks like dill, the like the tendrils of the leaves, I guess you could say. Oh my god. We will definitely be copying this because I'm not going to sit here and draw all these tiny little details. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But that's the kind they pin to their clothes in UK to support the troops. Yeah, it is. I actually, I was at my local, what's it called, hardware store today because I really want to grow California poppies in my yard, and they're completely sold out. Like every single place that I went to, everybody sold out of poppies. I was like really upset about it. I actually got to see. I actually got to spend a whole day down at the Antelope Valley Poppies Reserve, and it was like heaven. It was the most magical thing ever. Um, and it wasn't super crowded, thank God. But yeah, I agree with you. I think it's because everybody's really into the poppies right now. Everyone is like trampling those. Yeah, when I was there, visiting the poppies, you definitely had a lot of influencers, like LA influencer beautiful people that were like laying in the poppies. And it's just like, I get it. I get that you want to take a nice photo. I get that you're having a baby. I get that you think that you're special. But people don't realize like the amount of damage that they're causing to those flowers is like pretty bad. Poppies can't grow if the earth is packed down in any way. So, for example, the poppies have this poppy reserve, right? But there's a lot of animals that live in that poppy reserve too. And so there's like a lot of rabbits, there's squirrels, there's snakes. I'm sure there's, well, more northwards, there's groundhogs and there's coyotes. And you could very clearly see the trampling that has happened because of these natural, um, like, neighbors of this poppy field. You could see these little trails where absolutely no poppies will grow because that part of the ground has been trampled down. People don't realize that, and it just, I don't know, it really sucks. It's a huge bummer. I do think it's pretty cool that people are really excited about it and like they're out there like viewing the poppies and stuff. And hopefully people, this will like raise awareness and more people will like care about those sorts of things. But I don't know. I'm a pessimist, so I don't think that'll be the case at all. So I'm thinking about where the leaves of the poppy, where the petals of the poppy are gonna go. Okay. Amanda, have you had a chance to view the poppies yet? Or anybody else that's watching right now? I really hope you have, because they're really beautiful. Oh, that's right, you're up north, but I feel like there's poppies in Northern California. Am I wrong in thinking that? Let's see. Duplicate. And we're just going to start filling some of this space up with our poppies. Put it here. Do these here. Actually, we can't because it's right there. Yeah, I'm up north. I haven't gone to see any. Yeah, I think they're going to be blooming for a little bit longer. So if you can make the trip to any of the places where they're blooming, it'll be worth it. It's really fantastic. So I'm just erasing where I don't want that to be. And condensing that layer down. We're going to copy this shrubbery. Maybe create like a little thing out of it, and then we'll trim this one down just a little bit. But you see how, like, now that I've transformed this a whole bunch, it like looks kind of weird. I hate that. And especially once I draw in this poppy, it's like very, very noticeable. I hate that. Actually, I think that looks much better, just having it be a stem. So we'll save that for that. Ow. We'll do another poppy here. I think one of my favorite things about being in the poppy field was just like how beautiful and peaceful it was, and it smelled so, so good. It's like not often that you get to go somewhere so beautiful and like just smell it, you know, like it's so beautiful and so like I go to the Huntington a lot, and I don't think there's one place in the Huntington that smells quite as beautiful as the poppy field did. Trying to be mindful also of my tangents. Cool. And then maybe let's do one flowers from 1900 Palestine. Let's merge all of that together, alpha lock it, and make it black. And then let's go back to our reference. Oh, my back. Here we go. Start building this stuff out. So you see how the line integrity, it's like super, super obvious now, I think. That line integrity is not holding next to the transformed shapes. here I'm going to have it do that. So basically you're kind of, when you do this sort of stuff, you're kind of trying to hide your work. You're hiding their receipts, so to speak. Because this leaf has to end somewhere, this one right here, and it's easier just to hide it behind a different leaf or a flower than like have to explain it away, you know? And you'll notice I'm making the stems of these flowers a little bit simple, and I'm like not even bother, like normally I would do it like that, right, the stem, but if I do that, that means I have to go back in and color it, and I'm not about doing that right now, so I'm just not going to. And I think if this was any more complex of a shape, these leaves, I would, or if I hadn't done these guidelines, these purple guidelines, I would do them on a different layer. But I'm just doing it on the same layer because it's like all kind of worked out for me. Oops, flavor free. Do-do-do. And then let's have these curve in maybe. The thing is I think that these are straight stemmed. So I might not be able to get away with that completely. So we're gonna have to do this. Oh man, I promised myself I was gonna go to the gym after this, and I'm like already tired, and it's like not even 9:30. Oh my god, it's already 9? See, time flies when you're drawing. Can't tell you how many times I've like been working on a project and I look up and I'm like, wait, it's like 5 hours later. Yeah. Part of the reason why I really wanted to do this Twitch channel and eventually like upload it on YouTube is because I feel like a lot of people think that like drawing is like magic, and it's like you just figure it out, you just draw it, and it's like actually no, there's like a lot of really hard work involved, and like just because I'm a really strong drafts person doesn't mean that I can draw absolutely everything. I could if you give me enough time and you let me research it. Of course I could draw anything, but it's not a mystery, it's not a secret. I don't think that anybody is innately born to be able to draw really well. I just started drawing from a really young age, and I'm pretty good at it because it's all that I've really done for most of my life. And there's plenty of times where I epically fail in my illustrations, and it's a huge source of shame for me. But I don't let that deter me from pushing and like continuing to draw and continuing to like elevate my craft, because that would just be foolish, and I'd be giving up something I really love. I really love to draw. I really love what I do, and I also hope that like my Twitch channel like helps people. I hope that it maybe brightens up somebody's day, or any artist that's out there kind of struggling, maybe with drawing Disney art or working on anatomy or whatever the case may be. Like I hope that watching me struggle and hate my life sometimes because of how difficult this is. Encourages you to just keep at it. Or if you're just like bored on a Thursday night, I could be your Bob Ross. Mm. Oh no, Amanda doesn't want to go to sleep yet. Girl, I want to go to sleep. I'm so tired. I didn't even do anything today. You know, I ran errands, but I feel so useless. So I'm actually not going to build that out like that because this is sort of the end of my composition. So we're going to clip that. That. Cool. So we've done all that. We can get rid of that layer. We could probably get rid of this red layer as well. Not get rid of it, but like hide it. And now we're going to try to figure out what we want to do with Jasmine's hand. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this layer, we're going to turn it down. And this line layer, it'll be a little bit thicker, a little bit heavier. And then we're going to do the hands on a completely different layer. So the fact that we can't see her hand actually bothers me a little bit. So I think I might bring the hand in just a little bit more. Let's take a quick look at our reference. And so basically the way I like to draw hands, especially like tiny little, like delicate little girl hands, is I'll draw one knuckle at a time. And remember what I was saying earlier, if you have the pointer finger completely straight, you're going to have a little bit of a bend to the rest of the fingers unless your hands are completely straight, and then it's going to be like that, but her hands are kind of relaxed. And it's actually, I'm looking at myself because this actually is really helpful. So we're going to have a bit of a Y shape here. And then that. You gotta remember, like, the pinky is pretty small, its knuckle is a little bit smaller. I personally find that if you hide your drawing in, if you start hiding hands in a drawing, it makes it more obvious that you're like can't draw hands than if you just attempt it. And then another thing too is like Disney princesses, they tend to not have this like overly drawn knuckle information in their hand. they tend to have one or two bends. So if you could keep the amount of bending in their fingers to a minimum, it'll make their fingers look a little bit more elegant. And you want to keep the wrist pretty tiny. $10, I'm going to change this because I hate it. I can feel it already. And there's something called twinning in animation. And what that means is you have the same pose, the arms are raised at the same height, the hands are raised at the same height, and it makes for a really boring looking image. So that's why I'm trying to flip her hands around and just see if I can make it look more interesting than just having her hands be the same. And I'm realizing that she's not going to be able to like have something on her shoulder that she has her hand behind without her elbow coming up, which is why we do these things on separate layers so that we could give ourselves the grace and the freedom to change it because we haven't baked it in yet. So we're not like crying over the fact that we have to redraw something or we have to get rid of something. It's like, yeah, big deal. Like, I didn't draw it anyways, so I don't really mind that much. Yeah, see, I knew I would hate that. I like to keep my fingers paired. These two fingers, when I draw them, I like to pair them up together. Hi, baby. Hi. Stinky, come here. Can you say hi, highs? Where'd you go? Come here, Stinky. Oukie. Oukie. Come here. Oh, do you need to go outside? Oukie, you need to go potty? Okay, let's do a pee break. I'll be right back. Stinky. Ugh. Can you go outside today? Yeah, let's go outside, go pee. I'm gonna go pee too, so I'll be right back. Stinky. Hi. Good girl. I'm back. I've returned from my pee break. Yeah, you like my Bambi pee break sign? That way. Yeah, Bambi pee break is my favorite. Okay, let's unlock this. And this is about the 2-hour mark, so I'm gonna do a quick neck and back stretch. Stepping away from the work, I think, is one of the best things you could do for yourself because you get so caught up in your universe and what you're looking at that you kind of lose track of like the composition as a whole. You might lose sight of some of your like design principles. So taking a pee break, taking a stretch break is really good for you. Oh. Stretching everything out. So I used to have really bad problems in my forearm here, and the only thing that really helped was muscle relaxers. But what has kept it from hurting since then is stretching and doing pretty much the rule of thumb is if you are hunched over, you want to do the opposite. So you want to do chest openers. You like hug your elbows behind your back, put your head back, puff out your belly button, things like that. Stretching out your hand this way because you're drawing this way helps all of these muscles here. It helps them down here, rotating your shoulders around. So yeah. Cool. So what am I doing? I was drawing the hands. And I think I'm going to have a little bit of that thumb peep out, maybe? Maybe not. I feel like, what would her hand do? Probably cradle the flower like that. So you would see it peeking out just a little bit. And now I'm going back in and erasing where the flower is going to be overlapping her fingers, as well as her shoulder. So here I have a tangent, and it's like, well, what do I want to do with it? Do I want to just cheat that finger peeking through? Yeah, so I think I'm going to have it peek through just a little bit. But then that actually looks really awful. Ah, James is calling. Pause. Hello? Hello? What? Oh, nice. No, I'm okay. I already had my dinner. But, actually, I take it back. Can I have a pastry? Like a Baumkuchen or something like that? Cool. I can't really understand what you're saying. Yeah, that sounds great. Okay. Love you. Okay, bye. James is getting me, like, is James? What's good, JJ? Oh, I just got off the phone with him. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Amanda. James does BJJ. Like, his schedule's always changing. So some days he's home early, some days he's not. And I asked him to bring me some tea. It's from this like one place in Little Tokyo, and like it's like this big freaking cup of tea, and it's like green tea or something. But they put a ton of fruit in it, and it's so effing good. It is so good, and it's like my absolute favorite. So he was nice enough to get that for me today. Okay, now we're gonna go in and we're gonna erase the flower part where her hand is overlapping. And then we're gonna erase from the main line where the flowers are overlapping on her head. I'm deeply disturbed by this. I don't know what that is, but I do not like it. Figure that out in a second. Okay. That. Erase all of this. So again, as you guys can see, like this is like a pretty long process of like going through, cleaning up your artwork, figuring out where everything is. I feel like this arm is like, this arm's getting a little too crazy. I think it's just like a little too far over. I'm gonna bring that in. And we're gonna erase it, so that poppy can show. And we'll bring it in just a little bit. And bring out the poppy. Okay, now that I'm on this layer, what the F is this? It must be leftovers from something that I had merged into it. Ugh, I'm not happy about it though. I really hope, nope, there's like a whole bunch of them everywhere. Ugh! Angst. 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 So thankfully this doesn't happen to me very often, but when it does, I just remind myself that I am not perfect. And you just got to move on from that mistake. Yeah, I think these were old guidelines that I had put down and I had just forgotten about them and merged them into the drawing. That's okay. Stuff like this like gives you a second to like go through and like catch little mistakes that you've made where you might have tangenting or something just visually doesn't make sense. You can make it a little bit clearer. You could correct some sort of like oops that you have in the line. We've got an hour to go. I don't want this to go that way. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. We're gonna bring up the opacity on everything now and see how it feels. And go back in and correct it. What? I have this like little tiny little dot right here. It's driving me crazy. Okay. And I think that this is really distracting, so we're gonna get rid of that. So it's like this really delicate balance of like no one's gonna care about this thing, stop obsessing about it, and somebody's definitely gonna notice this thing and you need to fix it. And there's really no hard and fast rule for that other than just like being diligent and constantly keeping an eye out for those sorts of things. And the only thing that's gonna really like help you figure out whether something's gonna be noticeable or not is experience and time. And just sort of this general rule, like if somebody's standing really far away from your drawing, is this going to be distracting to them? And then when somebody's standing really close to your drawing and they're looking at the focus of your drawing, is this going to be distracting to them? Will they even notice? Does it make it better? Generally, you want to get rid of anything that is going to make people go, wait, what is that? Of any sort. You want to basically create an airtight alibi for everything in your illustration. There should be no question of where things are going, what is emerging from where. If you have something just like floating in space, it's weird, especially if the rest of your drawing is really tight. It's like, well, why? Why is it like that for this one part? It just looks careless, and you're not careless. So fix it, you know? I'm all out of water. Okay, so we're going to take a look at our reference. So something that's like characteristic of Muka is this really hard, thick line that he puts around his figures. But you'll notice you'll have these delicate objects that cross in front of it, of the figure, and they don't have that. So we're going to employ a little bit of that in Jasmine's drawing here today. And this should be a pretty familiar technique if you guys have been following me. I do this on quite a lot of my projects, and I really like the effect that it gives. I think I'm going to do it exclusively just to the outside of her form, which is a little different from what I normally do, which is for everything. Okay, why are my lines so thick today? That, oh, oh no. And so now I'm kind of doing the reverse. Before I had a really thick erase line, and now I have a really thin erase line, kind of to clean up my oopses. And I could feel the effect of being tired on me because my lines are considerably sloppier. So you'll notice I'm not doing this thick outline on the flower at all. And I like to say that this is a really good moment to catch little things in your design that you might have missed. And having it on a separate layer allows you to erase a little bit easier. So this is an oops I have in the line work here. I want this to be a bit thinner because I want everything to be almost the same line width except for that outer line being thicker. And it'll make this effect that much more dazzling, and it's going to look better because of it. And it's like that iconic, like, Muka look. I'm always tempted when I talk about Alphonse Mucha. I'm always tempted to say Mucha because Mucha in Russian means fly, and it just drives me crazy. I want to call him a fly. Doing this really, really heavy outline for her body and not for the flowers emphasizes how delicate the flowers are. So that's something to think about. It also helps you kind of keep track of where she is in this illustration. I do it a little bit to her fingers because I feel like her fingers are getting a little lost, but actually I don't think, yeah, I can't do that. Never mind. I really wanted to because I do that for all my other drawings, but we're not doing it for this one today. Just for her outline. Which means I need to go back in. I need to go back in and fix it on the main line work because I have it a little too thick here. Oh. And giving her that really hard outline draws your eyes to her figure as well. Just going in and cleaning up some of these forms. Oh man, I'm getting really tired. This is a spot here. You have to be careful when you do stuff like this, like because you're going to accidentally create tangents. So you just gotta go back in and like adjust it. Oh, I'm tired. So tired. Okay. Cool, so we've done all that. Let's do some fun stuff, which is the coloring. Which we have about 45 minutes to do, which is plenty of time. So this is like always the bane of my existence because I always find out that I missed a spot. Oh, I didn't today! I'm so happy. This is just like a really quick way to select everything so that you can start coloring it as soon as possible. Oh. Okay, grab that, grab this. Grab that, right in here. Okay. Cool, so we're gonna invert this. Oh. And I think we have to do it again, do we? No, we don't. Okay, cool. And then we're gonna take this again, this outside, and we're gonna feather it in just a little bit. Hold on, feather. And we're gonna clear it. And then invert that silhouette and lock it, and we're gonna call it fill. And so everything that we do now is going to be clipped into this fill. And that's gonna give us the ability to like paint it pretty quickly. So I don't know if I wanna do it the way that Muka does. Sort of this like watercolory situation. Let's take a look at Jasmine's skin tone really quick. Yeah. Cool, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do fill layer. I lied. We're gonna do this texture. And we're gonna use it as a multiply so that everything that we put in here, if it's a solid color, it's going to put that painterly effect onto it. So what I mean by that is, let's go to calligraphy, script, and make it really big. Oh God, freehand. So Jasmine's skin. It's not what I wanted, but you definitely just saw what I meant by that. Oh my God, what the F is going on? Oh, I think it's because it was accidentally selected from earlier. This looks right. Okay. So you see how when I put that in, it still has that texture. It retains that texture from like that watercolor effect. Actually, let's try lighten, add, contrast, overlay maybe. It doesn't do anything. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do multiply, and we're gonna futz with it a little bit. We're gonna do curves. Just to blow out the effect. But we're not overly darkening our colors, if that makes sense at all. And Jasmine's skin tone isn't quite this. Like this color, alpha. There we go. That looks much better. Okay. So yeah, as you can see, doing the coloring is a much faster process than doing the sketching and the concepts. It can take you a while just to understand the form of the character that you're drawing, to be able to nail it. And I've worked on projects where it took me like a week to finally like feel comfortable drawing something, and then out of the team, my boss then finds that out and he's like, awesome. And then every single time that character would come through, I got put responsible for that character. So that certainly does happen. Okay, we're gonna get rid of this because it'll be easier for me to grab colors. And typically at this process, I'm not being super obsessive about using the right color. I want to get as close as possible, but if I end up being off just a little bit, it's not the end of the world. For me, it's more important to get everything blocked out and blocked in, and then I could tweak everything from there, you know? When I was working at Pincraft doing Disney enamel pins, a lot of the time I would pull my reference. I would pull from animation screen caps, and put that into my Illustrator file and then pull colors directly from there and then futz them a little bit to make them brighter. Especially since I knew there were certain Pantone colors. Like there's this very specific Pantone. It's 123C that is like Donald's feet, like every single time without fail. So if I have a color that's really close to that yellow, then that kind of becomes like my cornerstone because it's like a Disney color. And then it makes choosing all the other colors, because it's a relationship, it's a color relationship, it makes it much easier to figure out those other colors from there. Let's fix this little mistake in the line work. Cool. So let's do Jasmine's top. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll grab a color and like it's whatever my primary color is. So like say for example her skin, and I move it over to like whatever color I'm trying to color match, and I'll just use that color and just see how it looks. And then you can kind of figure it out from there. Sometimes I find it easier to fill a huge area and then cut into it and erase it than the reverse. Okay, do it for this back here. I'm also keeping in mind sort of how I'm layering all these layers against one another to see if I can have any shortcuts. So I think because I have so many flowers, the flowers are going to be their own layer. They're going to be that white color. And the green is going to be on top of it, and so on and so forth. Just because I find that it's easier to problem solve through everything that way. And I tend to keep all of my colors on the same layer. So if I have a gold that, in Princess Jasmine's case, you have the gold of the earrings, the necklace, and the headband piece, I will put that all on the same layer. And that way, when my client comes back, and this happened a lot at Disney, they come back and they're like, we really don't like this yellow, we really need to change it. It's like, oh cool, that's a really easy fix. I know all of that is on one layer and it's a very quick adjustment. It's just like moving the hue, saturation, brightness over a bit. But if you put them all on different layers, it can cause problems, or worse, you put it on a layer with like a bunch of other stuff, then you just create an unnecessary headache. I think this is like almost more reddish. There we go. But it's like a little bit darker than her skin tone. And then the highlights are like that really pretty yellow. Okay, so her pants, let's adjust it a little bit. It looks like it's a little desaturated and a little bit lighter. And maybe a little bit greener. And then since this color is super, super similar, I'm just gonna keep it on the same layer. And what is this? Accidentally clicked on that. It looks like this headband of hers is the same. I'm gonna alpha lock this. And then the gemstone is actually a bit bluer. Oh my god, what is happening? I want that color We want to alpha lock. And then the gemstone is a bit bluer. And then it's got that huge darker bit to it. And it's like significantly darker too. Cool. So when it comes to doing blacks, my outline is pitch black. It's 100% black. It's like 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Like it's got no pigment to it. And I don't like to do any of my characters' hair. Even if they have black hair, I still won't give them pitch black. I won't give them this color black. What I'll do is I'll go really high saturation, but really, really, really low brightness for their hair color. I find that it makes a huge difference when I'm doing highlighting, and it just makes it a bit softer. When I was working in video games, my boss would tell me nothing below 10%. And that's a pretty good rule as well. Like you don't want a black that's blacker than a 10% because it kind of overpowers everything else in the composition and it becomes like a black hole. So if I went in and I brightened this up a little bit, you'll see a little bit of color to it. So actually we will brighten it just a bit and just like blow out all of that color. Because I think that this looks much better than having it pure black. And I find it also helps with doing the line work as well, just having it that other color. I've also been known to do like some weird, completely unrelated color when I'm filling in a whole area because I find it much easier. And I also know that the skin layer is above this layer. I think everything except for, yeah, this is the bottom layer of all this stuff. So I could be a little sloppy filling this in and it won't go everywhere, if that makes sense. So being smart about the way that you order your layers is going to help you work a little bit faster in that way. That. And then I missed these little stripes on her hair. No. Give me that color, thank you. Miss a spot. Here. I see. Okay, that's fine. Stretch out my neck just a wee bit. So we're going to cut into her face for those eyebrows because they're going to be the same color as the hair. Oops. Okay. That. Get rid of. Okay, and then for her eyes, I tend to do anything that's like a small detail, especially around the face, on its own layer, and I'll make all of that just its own layer, the lips, the eyes, everything. I just find it way easier to manage that way. I just realized I needed allergy medication and I forgot to pick it up today. Yeah. So her lips are a little bit reddish. It's like that natural lip color instead of a painted lip. And we're gonna do white here. And it looks like she doesn't have really eyeshadow. I wouldn't call it eyeshadow, but it's like this part of the eyelid is just a little bit darker. Than her skin tone. We're going to do alpha lock. We're going to pull that hair color, and then we're going to ramp up the brightness. And actually, it looks like it's less yellowy and more red. Like that. Ooh, I'm going to do a quick lower back stretch. Okay. And then for these flowers, so I know I'm going to do the leaf first. We're going to try pulling from this like brownish color of the gold of her earrings. We're going to see how this green goes. So we want it to be a bluer green because her pants are a greener blue. I don't know how else to explain that, but it makes sense in my head, and I hope it makes sense to you guys because I literally can't explain like how I do color theory in my head. But it just makes more sense to have it be a bluer green rather than like a yellowy green. And we just try to get it as close as we can in terms of color because I like looking at it right now, I know I'm going to change it and I'm going to adjust it. Oh, I missed a spot back there. Okay. Interesting. I'm going to change the background color really quick. Okay. So you see this like white, fuzzy, disgusting garbage line? We don't like that. We hate that. So what we're going to do to get rid of it is we're going to select automatically everything. And what it's selecting is it's selecting everything outside of the white. And we're going to feather the bejesus out of it. And, oh my god. Let's try this again. We're going to feather it. And clear it. No. Oh, I see. This is my tolerance. Okay. Threshold. Okay, hold on. Okay. Feather. And we're going to pull that feather in a little bit and clear it. And it should help get rid of that fuzzy line. The other way to do it is you select the inside, invert it, and then clear that. So it takes a little finagling. It's a little bit more precise in Photoshop because in Photoshop you can go into your menu, select, go down, expand, contract, and then you can tell it by pixels how much you want it to expand or contract. In Procreate, you're doing it all by hand, so it's not quite as easy to do, but yeah, that usually helps. So you can see the difference between the area inside of those flowers and the area outside of them there. So it's a total pain in the butt, but it has to be done. Otherwise, you have to go in and do it manually, which I think, because it's like such a fine space, I might as well just do that. Which sucks. I wasn't planning on having to do this by hand. It's like the minutia. I hate doing the minutia. I've never been a fan of it. But you have to do it. Otherwise, because if you don't do it, nobody else is going to do it for you, and that's what's going to really show your level of professionalism and how much you really care about your work. If you don't bother to like fix these little things in your drawing, it's amateur hour, and it's such an easy thing to fix. It's only like 3 minutes of my time. It's an uncomfortable 3 minutes of my time, but you have to have the discipline and the F's to like sit there and just do it. Do it right, do it properly, do it right the first time. You'll thank yourself later for it. Because the worst feeling in the world is having a note like that come back. It just makes you like, oh, I'm so sorry. Or worse, like something goes live and then the public sees it and then they start to talk smack about your work. And it's like millions of people are now witness to this mistake that you saw, and it was a one person witness, and you just had to go and be lazy, and now a million people get to see how stupid and lazy you are because you didn't take the time to clean up your art. So don't do that to yourself. Just do it. Just fix it. Just clean it. And as you can see, the system is not foolproof. Like, it's gonna have gaps. It's gonna miss parts too. And technically, I really should have done this before I started coloring it. And I'm paying for it now. Yeah, I like to think that the most unglamorous parts of a job are some of the most important. And we have so many tools at our disposal. Like, I was trained traditionally, so it's like I know what it's like to have to do this stuff by hand. Having to do like hand masking with like rubber is a total pain in the butt. And so the fact that I get to do this, I get to do this for 3 minutes instead of having to like mask each individual pass out. I'm literally saving hours in the grand scheme of things. So just it's like just do it. One last bit. Yay! Yay! It's so satisfying once you do it because you're just like, ah, you can take a nap right here. Because it looks so much better, you know? And since I know that the green is the second to last lower level, I know that like I could be sloppy around the pants and it's not going to show. Like, see? It's like, woo. Don't get too crazy because you might end up creating more work for yourself than you need to. This technique has also taught me that shapes are really important, and it makes you check your forms constantly. If you're doing a whole stroke for a leaf and you see that like that stroke is actually off in the way that you did the inking for it, it's like, oh, like I really should go back in and fix that because it just doesn't make sense or it doesn't look good. Yeah, see, so right here, this line work doesn't make any sense. I have a leaf that's coming into this flower, but then where does this leaf go? You know? So you have to take a moment to like fix that. Oopsie poopsie. Okay. No. Okay. It's like, you know those de-stressing videos on like Instagram? It's like people like putting their hand into like a bucket full of like beads or something, or like conveyor line belts in factories like rolling out like marbles or something. I feel like that's what it's like to watch somebody coloring, because it's just like, like so soothing. Because like your brain knows what to expect, and it's like, yeah, do that thing. Do it again. It's so satisfying. It's also like the showiest part of this whole process, the coloring. Because it's like, ooh, it's like the quick wins. It's like, but you can't do the quick wins without all of the hard work that like led up to this like moment. And like, sure enough, like by the time I started coloring, it was 10 o'clock. So I spent 2.5 hours of the stream doing the line work, figuring out the anatomy, figuring out what is going to sit where, why it's going to sit there, how it's going to sit there, figuring out all the technical problems of my illustration, fixing all the technical problems of my illustration, and then I finally get like this like relief of like, oh great, now I got to do the fun stuff. I got to do like the coloring pages part of my drawing now. It's like rewarding as hell. Okay, I'm catching 2 spots here, 3 spots that totally messed up. Okay, so we want to get rid of that. Cool. And then this is missing a petal. And this is missing the whole poppy. Cool. And then go back here. Oh man, I really need to get some Benadryl. Oh, we're almost there, guys. So tired. Okay, first we're gonna adjust the color of the leaves just a little bit. Are we not, am I on the wrong layer? I'm on the wrong layer. See, this is like that like pukey green color. Like that's like yellow green. What we want is a little bit more bluer. Maybe a little bit darker too. And then the pot is this purple color. So again, usually what I'll do is I'll pick up a color and then I'll shift it over to the color that I want it to be, and then I'll adjust it from there. So I just want it to be like this desaturated purple. I don't want it to be the focus either. Like I think I'm gonna keep this bluish background. Or maybe we'll make the background gold. I haven't decided yet. Yeah, that looks really lovely. I think we'll keep it like that. But then it's like super drying against that purple, so maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. Well, that light purple is actually really, really pretty. I think we might keep that. So we've got 2 things left. We have the poppies, and I don't know if I have my reference still up. Yeah, these Palestinian poppies, they're like this really pretty red color. I don't want them to be the central focus, so I'm actually going to make them a pink for now, and then adjust the color from there. Actually, you know what? We're going to pull this golden color from her earrings, and we're going to use that. And that's going to feel a little bit more harmonious to the illustration. So in the back of my head, as I was placing the poppies, I was thinking about sort of what the color of the poppies was going to be, and I want it to frame her face. We're just going to start adjusting those colors. Yeah, because I really want them to pop. And like the white is like, since the white is all over the composition, we have a lot of cool colors in it. Having this like lighter, brighter color is going to help us focus around her face. And what we're also going to do here is poppies tend to have a bit of a gradation. I want this blending mode because this is like a watercolor brush. Its blending mode is multiply. Ugh. And again, we're pulling that golden color from her earrings and we're putting that on the poppies. Like that. But it also doesn't completely wash her out either. Maybe we'll pull a little bit of this, the red orange that we're using in her eyes, and we'll put that in the center of the poppy. And again, using that color, that golden yellow color, for her flower. And then we're just going to brighten it a bit. And that helps to balance this out a little bit and keep it from getting completely like monochromatic by having this, basically this is a color triad. And that's something that I could go into detail on in more depth on a different video, just kind of color theory. What you do need to know is like it's a tried and true like color combo that like is very attractive. Oh, I missed a leaf. There we go. Nope, that's poppies. Here's the... We're going to turn on that layer where we had that sort of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Watercolor vibe. I'm just looking at it. I'm not wild about it. So we might not even use it. Yeah, I think we're just gonna get rid of it. It's not doing anything for us, so we might as well just skip it. So the next thing that I like to do is I'll go in with the light pen, and I've been like obsessed with this pen for like a while now. And it helps to just make elements like golds and metallics really shine. And you want to make it either add or color dodge, depending on what you're trying to do. But you have to be really careful because if you do it on everything, then it kind of like loses its charm and its effect. So I think I'm just going to do it for her eyes and her earrings. I'm going to pull it down just a little bit. Nope. We'll keep it at full blast, and then we'll go in with white. And then here we'll use blue, and then white again. Like that. And we'll do one more. I'm thinking add. We're going to clip it in. And we'll use the airbrush. To bring out the different forms in her body. And it's just a quick, easy, cheap way to make your stuff pop a little bit more without it taking up too much of your time. And here's where it becomes important. Remember I was saying earlier I don't like using black. It's because if you use this technique on, say, the hair and the character has dark hair, black isn't going to really adjust with this technique, whereas using a really dark brown, it'll give you that option. A little bit in these guys. I'm using as light of a touch as I can without completely blowing it out. And mostly I'm doing it sort of around her face rather than the flowers that are down at the bottom, because I really want it to draw attention to her. So the ones that are down at her feet and at her hips are a little bit more subtle. So typically wherever you have a huge amount of contrast, your eye is going to go straight to it. And you got to remember, with anything that's sitting on the ground, you're going to have that bounce back light off of the floor. I'm missing a huge part, and that is the little, the shoulder bits. That's okay. We're gonna fix it right now. So here's how we're gonna fix it. We're gonna do this in white to fill out that form. We're gonna do it above the line. Like that. And then we're gonna erase. So what I'm thinking about right now is like, what is the form of the thing that I'm missing? And then I'm gonna go back in and do that line for it. Actually, this is gonna follow her arm. That cool. Alpha lock. We're gonna drop this color onto it. I had like a mini heart attack. And then we're just gonna pull this color and paint directly on top of it with the soft airbrush. Oh my god, that was mortifying. I was like, something doesn't look right. Oh. Cool. So maybe the only other thing would be to give just a little bit of variation to the background right behind her. So we'll just do it with the soft brush. Do it to the center of the canvas. And I'm literally just experimenting. Like I don't know what I want the solution to be. Let's see what happens if we grab this blue, we drop it here, and then we invert it. I hate it. What happens if we multiply? So since I'm not sure, and I'm like, now I'm noodling with it, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm going to drop black on top of this. I'm going to tell it to give me the saturation and see what the problem is. So it looks like what's happening here, and this is why I'm not liking it, is I have her hair, which is a really, really dark color. I have the jasmine flowers, which are a really bright color, and then I have her skin tone, which is a medium. Sorry, let me go back. Her hair is really, really, really dark. The flowers are really, really, really light. And then her skin is a mid-tone, so it's smack dab in the middle. So choosing lightness or darkness is going to be really difficult. So my instinct tells me to make it darker and then just bump up the highlight layer that I have on this. I don't know, but it's 10:30. I'm done for the day, and I'm gonna marinate on this and maybe do a reprieve of it tomorrow. So keep an eye on my Twitch channel. I'll probably come back to this tomorrow once I have some sleep and some fresh eyes to look at it. Yeah, Daddy's home. Daddy's home, I know. Thanks guys for watching. I hope this was fun and interesting, and I hope you're doing well, and I will see you guys very soon. Check me out on Thursday in the afternoon at lunchtime. I'll be streaming then. Thanks guys, bye!